Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ealing Road podcast, where on tonight's show, we've actually got something a little bit different for you all. Before that, though, let's hear from the regulars. Callum, mate, everything well?
All good, boys. Nice to be back. How is everyone?
All good, son, all good. Craig,
Good.
same?
Yes, mate. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yes. Well, for the people watching on YouTube, you already know what we're doing, but this is going to be the definitive, the conclusive, probably the only Brentford players tier list currently on the internet. So it's a world premiere. And just before we get going, guys, remember, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, please do share it around with your mates. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels and also leave a rating as well. I want to see loads of people in the comments from this video because I think there's going to be maybe a little bit of controversy. Who knows, especially with what's gone on in the week with regards to some players that we're going to speak about. Anyway, to anyone listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other place that you get your podcasts, I would thoroughly recommend going to our YouTube channel right now and watching the video there, just so that you can see the tiers pop up on your screen. But to those who don't want to do that, don't worry, because I'll be signposting all our selections, and we're also going to do like a little run through right at the end so that you know who's in what category. Speaking of categories, the categories are as follows for anyone listening: Brentford GOATs, Elite, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and Brentford rejects. Those are the 5 categories that we're going to be putting the players in. And the way I thought we'd rank players is 3 metrics. I don't know how much we're going to stick to this, purely just because I think it's just going to get a bit crazy. But I'm going to go 1 ability, 2 moments, 3 status, as in their reputation as a Brentford player, and obviously longevity will also come into it. But it's obviously going to be a bit difficult with regards to how we rank players when we're ranking players from sometimes League Two and sometimes in the Premier League. So it's going to be fun, but it might be a little bit inconsistent with how we rank players. But on to the next point, please do not take this too seriously. This is purely supposed to be a bit of fun. I have in the running order that we're going to have a few beers, but it is January and I fucking hate January because I'm dry janning. So we're not having a few beers, but we are going to take a trip down at memory lane. So please do not take this seriously. And I'm talking directly to the Griffin Park grapevine there. Right, let's kick on with some honourable mentions. Firstly, we're going to start with the honourable mentions purely because if we included every player that I initially put on this list, we would be here for literally hours. As Craig pointed out just before we started recording, there are 55 players on this list. So if we did a lot more, we're going to be here a while anyway, but I've kind of done some judicious going back through all the Brentford squads from the League Two days, and this is the final product. But rest assured, honourable mentions are for the majority of B's players with a little bit of status, but no playing ability at all. And I want to stress for the majority of players, I'm not saying these players are just bad, they're just not consequential enough to include. So any objections to these honourable mentions, boys, please just shout and we can just tier them right here and right now. So first of all, I'm going to go Nathan Eldo. This is going to be a very controversial one, but I just decided not to include him a little bit before my time. Kind of started supporting Brentford. Well, started going to the games at least when he was there. He's the first honourable mention. Alan Connell, my first Brentford hero. You will be missed. John Halls. To be honest, so when I first started supporting Brentford, John Halls was someone that whenever he got on the ball, I don't know if you either would be able to tell me more about this. He'd always try and go on this mazy run, and he'd always spectacularly cock it up. I thought about including him, but I didn't. So let's move on. No objections so far. We're all good. Simon Moore, Pim Balkenstein, Gary Alexander, Shay Logan, American stud, and the only player I've seen score 4 goals for Brentford in the same game, Mike Rella. Saido Berahino, Paul Hayes.
No, I'm gonna have to disagree with Berahino. How can you put Berahino in? I even consider him. I mean, his attitude was awful. I remember he had a good game. What was it on Sky that time? Was it against
Carlisle?
Carlisle, that was it. And he whipped that ball in the left hand corner. Oh, it was fantastic ability that kid had, but flipping we should have known. You know, he was going to throw the toys out his pram when he was a bit older, because he did it with us. We sent him back to West Brom and said, "Well, if you're going to be like this kid, then we don't want you." So I'm going to reject Saido Berahino. We don't talk about it.
You're going to reject.
I'll tell you what.
Go on.
Someone, either you guys or someone in the comments, correct me if I am wrong. But that game that you're talking about, Callum, where I think he scored twice that game against Carlisle, and it was on the telly. That game was like a couple of weeks before we played Carlisle in the JPT final, and lost to them. So we beat them like 3-1 in the league and then lost to them 1-0 in the JPT final. A few
I
years
think
later.
that was a
Might have even
different
been the
game. I
next
think
game.
that I'm pretty sure it was a different game. That I'm pretty sure that was different because that was Jeffrey. We had Jeffrey Shalop playing in, and I don't think he played the same season. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Oh,
but I'm pretty
I'm
sure.
gonna have to.
I'm pretty sure
Google it.
Berahino was the season after. The season after. I'm that confident. Berahino was the season after because we went and played in that yellow and black kit that same season. So I'm certain it's the season after. He didn't play with Schlupp. He didn't play with Schlupp. I'm
I think
95%.
We need to get back to the task at hand, lads.
I think I'm right.
Move on.
Moving swiftly on, we've got a lot of players to get through. Paul Hayes, honourable mention. Martin Philo, honourable mention. George Saville. You know what? I felt bad for excluding George Saville from the tier list, but I'm going to give him an honourable mention, and I really liked him as a player. Josh Clark should probably be in there for the goal against QPR. Any time that he turned up, it was always against QPR. The elusive Portuguese wonder kid, Betinho. Don't think he ever made a senior appearance for Brentford. We signed him. We thought he was going to be great, and he never did. Free kick specialist Ryan Williams, another good one. Josh McEachran, I also felt bad on honourable mentions. I thought he should be in the list just because of that sort of second half of the season when he turned into the player that we all thought he might be one day. But again, not consequential enough to go in the list. Andy Gogia, a few promising signs when he first started playing for Brentford.
Scored that goal against Stoke in pre-season and thought we signed the next big thing.
Honourable mention. Sully Kai, perennially linked with Brentford through loans or transfers. But I think he played did he score a goal against Cardiff, I want to say, was his only Brentford goal?
He scored 2 against Cardiff, actually, funny
enough. 2 against Cardiff.
Pretty sure.
Finally, we're on to the last 2. The shagging Scotsman, Theo Archibald, thought I'd just include him anyway. And we have Mads Beck Sorensen as the last honourable mention. Mads Beck, you'll always be in our hearts, mate, but you didn't
Listen, Mike, there's one player who's sticking in my head right now, and you've not even mentioned him.
He might. Go on.
He's not on that list. I'll give you one opportunity. He played against Gillingham in a game that Farid El Agoui scored in the last minute. A quality right back who came off the bench after an early injury. Yavi Venter, baby. What a goal against AFC Wimbledon in that JPT game, that 5-3. A quality player. We signed from Villarreal. I think he's 37 at the time. Listen, Yavi, gracias. Great player.
Okay,
where is he on the list?
We'll put Javi Venter on the honourable mentions. Let's kick on. Let's kick on with the Brentford tier list, the definitive and only Brentford tier list on the internet. First player, and this one is going to be a strong first player. We're going to go Adam Forshaw as the first player. I am inclined to put Adam Forshaw straight to the top in Brentford GOATs. Now, I don't know if that's controversial or not. In terms of playing ability, when Adam Forshaw used to play for us, I thought he was the best player on every game on the pitch. And I was really upset when he left because I thought he was the absolute mustard. But there are 3 of us here. So discuss. Craig, I'll come to you first, mate. Adam Forshaw, where are you putting him?
If we was to put him on memories, I would go in the Brentford GOAT. And probably ability. Like you just said, he was that player when we had him that no matter what game it was, he was consistently good. And I can off the top of my head think of a few goals and memories that I have of just him as a player. That goal in the playoff semi-final, the penalty, shall I say, in the playoff semi-final to send us to Wembley against Swindon.
Yeah.
A goal where he's picked the ball up in our half, dribbled it past a few Sheffield United players and put it in the far corner. And my favourite memory of him, I'm sure we was playing against like MK Dons at Griffin Park, and I had sat in the paddock in the Braemar Road. It had been raining like you wouldn't believe. There was water sitting on the pitch. He slipped over the ball and the referee gave him a free kick. So for that alone, I want to put him in the Brentford GOAT.
Callum, what do you reckon? Well, you've got to remember where he first started with us. He came on loan from Everton, and he kicked on to get a big move to us after then, and that was his first big move. I think I'm going to have to keep it short and sweet. I will go Brentford GOAT. I was a bit disappointed. Yeah. I was disappointed with how he left, and in the fashion he left. to go and join Uwe Rosler at Wigan. But he's done very well for himself ever since. So Brentford go. Brentford go.
Yeah,
sure.
I think so. Unanimous. Brentford go. Where is Adam? He's not still at Leeds, is he?
I think he is. Do you know what?
Last time he was at Middlesbrough, wasn't he?
No, he was at Leeds. He was at Leeds, but he had a lot of injuries, and I think they were trying to get rid of him at one point. But I'm not sure. That might be one for the stats after. But I think he is still at Leeds. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Adam Forshaw in his day, what a player, by the way. Let's just let's get on to the next one. Harry Forrester. Now, I don't know with Harry Forrester actually. I might come to you first, Callum, on Harry Forrester, and then we'll go back up. So we'll go Craig and then me. You kick off with Harry Forrester.
Well, do you know what? I think everyone remembers that goal he scored against Sheffield United, where he ran at that defence and he bangs it in, at 25, 30 yards out. And I remember saying, I turned to my friend on Ealing Road that day and I said, this is the first time now I think we've got a player who can kick on and really do something this season and going forward. I really enjoyed watching him that season. But what happened with how he left the club? I mean, oh dearie me! I mean, I know his contract was up, and and everything like that. But to move to Doncaster, I mean, he had a host of clubs looking at him when he left, and he went to Doncaster, and that proved to be a big error on his part. So I'm going to go with the potential, but he didn't live up to it, and it's proved ever since. I'm going to go sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, Craig, what are you thinking with Harry Forrester?
If we're basing this on Brentford, obviously, which we should be anyway, some people, very few people, will remember the anniversary silver kit that we had. Very few people will remember that silver anniversary kit that we wore. I think we only wore it a couple of games, but one sticks out in my mind, which was Bournemouth away, where we wore that kit and we drew 2-2. And it's one of my first away day memories with my dad, where I see him jump at least a foot off the floor when celebrating a goal. He picks up the ball on the edge of their area, jinks outside, and puts it in the far corner. Like Callum said, he was that player that everyone looked at and thought, you've got the ability to go a long way in your career if you can keep your head right, keep your head down. And it was a weird one, the decision to go to Doncaster, and then he has his opportunity at Rangers as well. But the fact that I can only remember like 2 or 3 things about him, I'm going to agree with Callum.
Yeah.
And go with sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I think we're 2 for 2, boys. I think I'm going to stick him in there as well. Weirdly, the only distinct memory, and I know we've spoken about how when he got going, it was like, right, we've got a real player on our hands. But weirdly, the distinct memory I have of Harry Forrester was against Chelsea at home in the Cup. Forshaw slide tackles Frank Lampard, and it goes into Harry Forrester's path, and he has a shot, and I think it gets saved. He doesn't score, does he? No, it gets saved.
Yeah.
And that is the only like distinct memory that I have of Harry Forrester. And maybe
he scored the penalty that game.
Oh yeah, like what? After Adeyemi got fouled.
After Adeyemi got fouled, he scored the penalty that game.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But I'm going to go sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit as well, just because I don't think we saw enough from him and in his time at Brentford to warrant being an elite or Brentford Goats. It's a very exclusive club. So, and I'm just going to say now, I think with the shoe-ins, because we're already 14 minutes in, I reckon with the shoe-ins, I think we just go unanimous, bang, 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 and we just get them in. So, next player, Henrik Dalsgaard. What are we thinking, boys? I'm going to go elite for Henrik Dalsgaard, and I know that there'll be a temptation to put him into Brentford, but I'm going to go elite for Henrik Dalsgaard. I think cracking player on his day, very much championship player. I don't know how we would have fared in the Premier League, and I don't know if that's controversial. Callum, I'm going to come to you, mate.
Listen, you look at the individual he was and how he got Brentford promoted to the Premier League. I'm going to go Brentford go. Simple as that.
Generous. It's generous. Craig.
I think before we started this, Mike, you said to me a lot of that Championship team that got promoted are going to go into that Brentford goat. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna make this a split decision and favour Callum and go for a Brentford goat.
Thank you very much. Thank
I,
you.
just to clear it up, but before we started recording, I said anyone that comes from the Championship and then plays with us. I think if Dalsgaard had played with us in the Premier League, I don't think I'd have any qualms about putting him in Brentford goat. But I'm being overruled 2-1, so I'm going to stick him in Brentford goat. Let's go
Good
for the next
decision.
one.
Good decision.
Right,
Good decision.
next player, Andre Gray. This is a strange one, right? Because Andre Gray, especially in that 14-15 season, I think that season was just incredible. It's such a shame that it ended in the way it did, and we just somehow drew Borough in the playoffs, who were our bogey team all year, and we could not find a way to beat them. But given us, I think, in my opinion, the best limbs I've ever seen on the Elam Road Terrace when he scored that goal against Borough to equalise, even though they went on to win the game. He scored something like 18 goals in that season. But in terms of a footballer, right, and I don't know if this is out of pocket, but I've never seen a more unnatural footballer than Andre Gray. Even the way he hits the ball is very, in the way that sometimes, and I'm one of these people that will say someone like Eden Hazard is better than Mo Salah, and that sometimes gets a really hot take. But I think Eden Hazard is better than Mo Salah because you can see the pure footballer in there. Whereas sometimes when Salah hits the ball, there's something just really gets on my nerves about it. He shouldn't be that good at football. Just his ball striking is just not there, and I feel the same with Andre Gray. Where do I put him though? Where do I put him? Having said that, I'm going to throw to Craig. And then I'm going to have a think about it.
Okay, I'm gonna base this purely on that the Middlesbrough limbs that you're referring to on the Ealing Road
Moments.
the moments that he's provided us. Now, I'm going to slightly outweigh that with his footballing ability, as we've said. So I'm going to chuck him into the elite category, where his memories outweigh maybe the ability that he had. But because he didn't have the ability that say Ivan Toney has in front of goal, if he did, I would have put him higher. But because of that Middlesbrough game, I'm going for elite.
Yeah, Callum, what are you thinking?
Listen, you boys failed to mention the first two games of the season before he moved to Burnley. He had a great partnership with Philip Hoffman. What an individual he was as well. Bristol City away. We won 4-2.
4-2.
And he contributed to Ipswich at home when we drew 2-2 as well. So now, in all seriousness, I actually look back at one moment. That was actually not Middlesbrough, but it was actually all those two games I mentioned before he went to Burnley. But Watford at home. Now, we ended up losing that game.
I knew you was going to say that.
We found out earlier that day that Warburton was going to say bye-bye at the end of the season because of whatever happened off the field. And that ultimately cost us, I think, promotion that season. But that was a fantastic game. That was the passion. He ran over to Warburton. He hugged him. The whole team came over. And, that was that. So I'm going to agree with you and go elite. But what a player. I wish we saw more of him. He would have been the GOAT otherwise, but, elite will do.
Do you know?
I just want to throw out there a GKU Goalkeepers Union mention to David Button. Yeah, what an assist that was for that goal, by the way.
Yeah, no, I remember. We ran straight over to Warburton afterwards. That was a good moment. That season, I think, was full of moments from that front three. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking the away games at Cardiff. Millwall was another good one. Brighton away that season was another good one, where I think Gray might have scored in all three of those games. But Millwall away that season was one of my favourite ever away days. That Danny Shitu own goal. Danny Shitu own goal was hilarious in the last minute.
Brilliant.
Especially like the way to win games after being 2-0 up, then they bring it back to 2-2, and then you get the 3-2 winner. Oh,
they did that. Millwall did that a few games in a row beforehand, where they was 2-0 down and they come back to 2-2. So it was always inevitable, that game. But I remember it so well.
I'm going to go Andre Gray elite. I think that's unanimous. Good memories, but ability, I think lets him down. Let's go for the next one. We've got Philip Hoffman. Callum, I'll let you take it away. You've just mentioned Philip Hoffman in the last one.
Listen, I enjoyed watching him when he first started with us and then he got injured. Big potential, and he's kicked on and done very well in Germany ever since. But I'm going to go. Do you know it's a hard one? I'm going to go. Sometimes good, sometimes good, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Is probably.
I'm going to come in one moment, and you both know what I'm talking about. Is not the Nottingham Forest at home. That is the only moment that he's had, and apart from that, I think he probably doesn't want Brentford reject. But I'm going to go shit. Craig, what are you thinking?
That memory alone for me bolsters him up one rank. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Look, people remember that game for I don't know how that didn't win the Pushkas Award, that goal, because it was just incredible. We'll never see another goal like that again.
Yeah.
But that's all I remember. That's all I remember.
I don't know.
So.
I think we need to be a bit more ruthless here, boys. In part from that goal, one moment, and I know it was an incredible moment, and Mark Burridge on comms when he's like struggling to get his words right, he's like, "Ooh, how's it go?" I think we've got to be a bit more ruthless. But if you're, I would say shit. But if you're both saying sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, then I'm happy to stick him in there. But we do have to start filling out these two bottom rows, otherwise we're gonna.
Don't you worry, we'll be. I can see a few individuals.
Trust me.
Okay, all right, cool. Let's go to the next. Well, we've got John Swift next, so I think that's unanimous. Brentford reject.
Get him out.
Yeah,
we're not even discussing John Swift.
We're not discussing John Swift.
Yeah. Apart from QPR away, when he got booed off the pitch, and he deserved it that day. Yeah, John Swift. Useless.
Okay, let's go for a more current one. We've got Matty Jensen. Now, it's going to be difficult with some of these. Actually, no, it's not going to be difficult. In terms of ability, moments, I think that assist for Ollie Watkins in the Championship playoff final was one of the best passes I've ever seen, especially with his weak foot. And he has come on leaps and bounds since the Championship days, and he's only got better. I remember when he made that pass, he was still in the kind of, not Marmite phase, but there were times when he would be a bit frustrating. But recently, I would say he's done enough to warrant being in Brentford Goats. Craig, what do you think?
He was one of those players for a couple of seasons that split opinions amongst the fan base. He was that Marmite player. You either loved him or hate him. But this season and last season, and probably even the first season in the Prem, he's come on leaps and bounds. And if you compared him to other playmaking midfielders that we've had over the years, you'd argue he's one of the best we've ever had at the football club.
Yeah.
The memories over the last few seasons where we've been, the goals that he's scored as well, that flick against Fulham to put us 2-1 up was brilliant. And like you say, just the number of assists and moments that he's provided as well, for me, he goes into that Brentford GOAT.
Callum, what are you thinking?
Agreed. I would say what he's offered
Brentford
the
GOAT.
club over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, Brentford GOAT.
Good stuff. Right, on to the next one. We got Jordan Rhodes. Now, I would say this is a difficult one. He wasn't at the club for too long. He obviously scored that perfect hat-trick away at
Shrewsbury.
I was going to say Colchester, but it's the wrong blue team. Right, yeah. Away at Shrewsbury, perfect hat-trick. Wasn't at the club for too long. In terms of his career outside of Brentford, he's very much a kind of EFL. I would say he's an EFL GOAT, but I don't know if he's anywhere near elite or Brentford GOAT. But what are we thinking? I would probably say sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But I don't think he has the longevity there either. But I wouldn't put him in shit just because I think when he did play for us, he was very good. So, Craig, what are you thinking?
I feel like there isn't a category for him here. He kind of sits between that sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and elite. If we had just an all right category, that's where I would put him in.
You criticising my producing?
Yes. So, do you know what? I think he was only on. Was he only on loan for the season or for 6 months? Second half of the season or something, wasn't it?
It was short.
I'm sure it was second half of the season.
Maybe.
Do you know what? Given longevity, we've got one memory. We've got longevity. He would have stayed and scored a lot more goals, but he was definitely better than the level that we were at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We've only got one memory of him. I'm going to go sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Callum?
No, I disagree. I'm going elite.
You're going elite?
Listen, I'm going elite just because he contributed to what was a fantastic season on and off the pitch for Brentford in League Two that season. He produced so much for us for a lone player. Obviously, we couldn't get him in, unfortunately, on a permanent and went to Huddersfield instead, which I don't blame him for. You know, it is what it is. But I'm going for elite. He got us promoted. He did his job, and I can't thank him enough for that. So elite for him.
Craig, after Callum's beautiful analysis, what are we thinking? Are we putting our foot down, or are we giving him a little bit of leeway?
I could be swayed. I could be swayed.
I think ability-wise, and as well, I know it's the Brentford tier list, but I think his impact in the EFL, he's scored a lot of goals. So I think it might be a bit harsh. I might go back on my original statement. I think elite, especially during that time when we were right in amongst it, and I think he was a bit above our level, and I think that was playing for everyone to see. So we're going elite?
Yeah.
Cool.
Happy with
Next
that.
player, Jota Pelotero. Straight into Brentford GOAT for me.
Straight into the GOATs.
Yeah.
Do we even need to discuss? Put him in
No.
the GOAT. Put him in the GOAT.
Can we discuss him still? Because
Rotherham at home. Rotherham at home. Listen, we
Hat-trick.
don't talk about anything else. When he came back, he scored that hat trick. And you know what? I was so pleased for him because of obviously on all the off-field stuff back in Spain, or what was going on. He came back to us, did well. It was great to see him back in a Brentford shirt. And do you know what? Hotter, you Brentford go. Simple as that.
Agreed. I still didn't manage to get.
I just want to say, sorry, Mike, to interrupt
That's right.
you. Or if you're out there and you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, I just want to tell you I love you from the bottom of my heart. You're welcome back at Brentford anytime.
Would you take him at Brentford right now?
Yes, right now. He can play left back.
Yeah, he could play left back, to be fair. It'd probably be better than the options we currently have there. Let's move on. Let's go Carly Osborne. I'm thinking elite for Carly Osborne. I have few memories of him, but having watched games when we were in League Two, and I think he's got a bit of a cult status around the club, cult hero status around the club, and he's involved with Brentford Women, and he's a club ambassador, and he does all these things. I think we'd be mistreated him if we put him any lower than elite, Craig. What do you think?
I agree. You know, if we're going on what Callum said about Jordan Rhodes and what he did for the club when we was in League Two, getting us promoted from that division, the start of what was the rise of Brentford, I think anything less than elite would be doing him an injustice.
Callum, Carly Osborne?
Agreed. I mean, the only thing I would say is I was gutted when he went to Millwall, and he obviously didn't play as much there as probably what he would have liked to. But no, he contributed to our League Two season that year, got us promoted, still around the club. So, yep, elite for me.
Perfect. Just going to signpost for those listening. In Brentford GOATs, we currently have Adam Forshaw, Henrik Dalsgaard, Matty Jensen, and Jota. In elite, we have Andre Gray, Jordan Rhodes, and Carly Osborne. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, is made up by Harry Forrester and Philip Hoffman. And rightfully so, Brentford Rejects is made up solely by John Swift at the moment. Let's continue. Konstantin Kirschbaumer. Now, this is a funny one. And I debated putting him in honourable mentions just because I feel like when we signed him, it took him so long to get off the ground. But then sort of towards the end of his time at Brentford, he actually started to show a little bit of promise. But for me, not enough promise to warrant being in elite or Brentford GOAT. I think he's going to be in the bottom three. Callum, which of the bottom three is he going to be in?
I'm going to put him in sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit. That is simply that. Listen, he had a lot of potential. He got a lot of injuries, and I was gutted to see him go when he did, because I think, as you rightfully say, Mike, he was kicking on. I look back to his last game, which he was involved in, or one of the last, when we beat Huddersfield away from home on the last game of the season. I think it's 5-1, I think, in the end, actually. And some of those passes through to Hogan, oh, fantastic. Right through the middle of the defence. And then that goal against Brighton, oh, that 3-3. And then Solly March pops up in the 90th minute. Oh, bloody hell. I mean, that was a quality finish from him. But I'm going to go sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit.
Craig, agree?
I mean, we were talking about a player that didn't really do much with the time that he had at the football club. Unfortunately, he did have a lot of injuries, like you've rightly pointed out, and the last few games before he left, he did start to show, signs of what he could have done, but he never did it at Brentford. So for me, I'm actually going to put him in the shit category.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think in terms of the things that we're weighing this up with, we've got ability, didn't show enough. Moments, not enough. Status, he is quite funny to mention. Just whenever there's a conversation that pops up about Konstantin Kirschbaumer, there's always a lot of laughs. And longevity, didn't do enough. So I'm going to go with shit. He's not. And I need to signpost this again. I'm not actually saying these players are shit, but we have to do categories, guys. So please don't kick off and say that we're being disrespectful to the players. We're not calling them shit. We're just categorizing them. Maybe I could have been a bit less subtle with the category names, but that's by the by. Let's continue. Kevin O'Connor, Brentford GOAT, straight away. I don't think we need any discussion on that. Done so much for the club, record appearances, still involved with the B team. GOAT. Who's that?
I reckon he's a future manager of Brentford.
Yeah,
by
future
the way.
manager for sure.
Wouldn't have it. No. Listen. You see what's happened to Frank Lampard at Chelsea. I wouldn't want it. I think he should go off and do something at Fulham or something like that. Run them into the ground. But
I'm so glad that you said that.
Honestly, I wouldn't have it. I just don't think. You look at the reputation he has around the football club, and you look at Frank Lampard. He has the worst Chelsea managerial record. That's the last thing he's going to be remembered by at Chelsea Football Club.
But what I will say,
Brentford interim manager.
What I will say is that in terms of how long he's been a one club man for his whole career, he's now been at Brentford since he retired. And he's doing work with the B team. He's learning under Thomas Frank and he's learned under previous managers as well. Surely, if you want someone who knows what Brentford is about and is learning under the wings of our most successful manager to date, well, not to date, but our most successful manager in recent times, Kevin O'Connor is that guy, Callum. But are you coming purely from a point of you don't want it to tarnish his legacy?
Not at all. I personally think, not to sound harsh in any way, but we're now a progressive football club. You need someone in there with managerial experience, and we'll get that team clicking and doing what you want them to do. Kevin O'Connor, if you want him to be considered for a managerial role at Brentford, he needs to go off. Yes, you rightfully say he's around the first team at the moment and has done previous stuff with the B team. He needs to go off, use that development at somewhere in the Championship League One team, and then to even be considered for a Premier League role job. That's my opinion. That is my opinion.
Okay.
You boys may disagree. Others may disagree.
If he goes and does his due diligence, then I would consider it. But maybe right off the bat, maybe you've got a point with that one. Let's go for a controversial one. I'm feeling controversial. Let's do it. Let's go Sergi Canos. Craig, we've had words before the podcast started about Sergi. Even more has developed over the last kind of week or two with him saying that the manager never used to let him shoot outside the box. Obviously, there's other social media antics that we can analyze, but let's talk about Sergi the player first. Let's talk about Sergi the player, Craig. Sergi the player, where would you put him in this list?
Sergi the player, I would put Sergi the player in sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, because he has his moments. He's scored some of the most iconic goals for Brentford in recent times, being that one away at Reading. But he was a player, he might have tried hard all the time, but I felt like he was massively inconsistent when he got his opportunities to start to play. Maybe that's as we progressed to push on to the Premier League, and then in the Premier League, when he first come to us as that young, 18-year-old on loan, he was shit hot. Everyone thought he was going to be the next best thing, the same way we did for players like Harry Forrester when he played for us. But I just feel like his attitude off the pitch has completely tarnished any possibility of him being labelled as a Brentford GOAT.
Yeah. Callum, Sergi the man. Let's we've talked about Sergi the player. I'll let you talk about Sergi the man.
Listen. I think, yeah, I completely look. I don't agree with some of the antics with when he turned up to the training ground that time with wearing that shirt. Someone help me. I don't like that. I don't like these. You got to remember these interviews. Maybe they maybe have been twisted in one way or another. I don't think I believe a word of that. Where he's been told not to shoot outside the box. Right? He scored a fair few good goals for us from outside the box. So I don't necessarily believe that, to be honest with you. Look, I'm going to have to go elite. I just think, you look
Elite.
at, yeah, I'm going elite. I don't,
Oh,
listen, boys.
it's a
Listen,
stinker, Callum. It's a
listen,
stinker.
listen,
It's a
listen.
stinker.
You look at the player, right? You look at the player. He came in on loan, right? He proved his point. He then went and played for Liverpool a couple of times, went to Norwich, didn't work out for him, came back to Brentford, did his bit for Brentford Football Club, scored that one. I mean, honestly, that goal against Arsenal, scored that goal at Ellen Road as well, which wound their, Leeds up in that 2-2. I actually would still love to see him at Brentford. Look, he's better than some of those players in that team at the moment. I'm sorry.
You still love to see him at you still love to see him at Brentford?
Listen. He's a player who did well at Olympiacos last season, scored some goals for Olympiacos.
I could do well at Olympiacos.
Listen, they're the Greek champions. They're at the end of the day, and is now after an injury doing well for Valencia. There was a player in there. We just didn't utilize him the way we should. I'm telling you now, elite. You two will disagree. You'll probably put him in shit or something like that.
So are you blaming the football club for not getting the player out of him that you are apparently seeing that other people aren't seeing?
I would possibly agree with that. Yeah. You've got to remember as well. A lot of before he went out on loan, he was playing at left back. He was played out of position.
Yeah, and he went and cried about it on social media.
All right,
well, that's
all right.
rightfully so. Rightfully so, in my opinion. I think at the end of why would you want to play? Realistically, you've got a player with that pace. You've got that player with the agility. You've got a player with big potential, and you're playing him out of position. You saw at Leeds when he plumped him up there. Hang on. When you saw him at Leeds, when he scored that goal at Ellen Road, he got that opportunity. He banged it in the back of the net up front. That is where he should have been playing. None of this nonsense at left back because it didn't work for him. So I'm going to leave. There you go,
mate. If Sergi was to come back, let's say we've got a fully fit team. And Sergi comes back to Brentford in January. He doesn't start anywhere. He probably doesn't even make the bench.
Correct.
I'm not sure about that one either, to be honest with you.
Who does he? Because he's not starting over Brian. He's not starting over Ivan. He wouldn't start over Sharda. Wouldn't start over KLP. I wouldn't even start him over Wissa.
That is controversial. That is seriously controversial.
No, Callum, you're being controversial. I guarantee you there'll be people in the comments saying
I look forward to it. I look forward to hearing their thoughts as ever. Honestly, feel free. Come and see me in the West Stand, like a few of you have. I will happily tell you as always. Why I've got it. There you go.
By the way, you're doing well at Valencia. Is 12 appearances and 1 goal.
Yeah, but he's been injured. He's been injured. Listen,
he still played 12 times.
He still played 12 games.
Listen, it was a good goal. I saw him score it. It was a good goal. So
it was a good goal. It was a good goal. I'll give him that.
Elite.
But mate, Paul Robinson scored a good goal. We wouldn't have him up front, would we?
Listen, I think the only moment I say moment singular because I don't think scoring a worldie against Reading warrants going into elite / Brentford goat. The only moment that's saving him from being in shit or Brentford reject for me is the Arsenal goal, just because I think that is iconic in terms of Brentford's history. First goal back in the Prem in 70 odd years. So I would put him in shit, but I think that goal brings him up a tier. If we're putting up, who do we put up? We put up Philip Hoffman from shit to sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit for that goal against Forest. If we're talking about iconic Brentford goals, there's an argument to be made that Sergi Canos' goal against Arsenal is the most iconic Brentford goal. Agreed. Thoughts, Craig?
it's also as iconic as coming on against Leeds, scoring an equaliser, taking your shirt off, and getting sent off 2 minutes later, isn't it? You know. So
I'm glad you brought that up. Oh god, this is a hard one. To be honest, I think we need to be ruthless, and this is I think we need to be a bit ruthless here. I'm going to go shit.
Put him in shit. Put him in this shit.
Sergi, mate, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but you made a meal of it.
Look, I think we can all agree. I think we can all agree that if his antics off the pitch hadn't happened, we would have put him in elite, possibly even Brentford GOAT. But his antics off the pitch have completely tarnished his reputation at the football club, and I hope we never see him in red and white again.
The rest of the team have jetted out to America, and you've been left to train on your own. I'm sure, to be honest with you, I mean, as I say, I completely disagree with him wearing that shirt, but he did it to get attention. He did it to get his contract terminated in the end, or whatever happened with it. I don't know. Did they pay something? Who knows? But it worked. He got his move to Valencia, and I'm glad to see him playing. So there you go. We move on.
Okay. Well, we move on. We've got Sergi and Chip. Sergi, I think you have done that to yourself, to be honest. I tend to agree with Craig. The social media antics, especially the one after the Leeds game when he's crying about playing out of position. Just do your job. Do your job, man, to quote Roy Keane. Anyway, from one Irishman to another, let's go to Alan McCormack. I don't think anyone's disputing Brentford GOAT for me. Alan McCormack, what a player. I think that goal against Coventry at home, when he kind of races through, dinks it over the keeper, I think in terms of a player that you need in the Championship, he is that midfield bulldog, to use the cliche. But I'm going Brentford GOAT. Craig, what are you going?
Funny enough, I always said to people around us at Griffin Park that I expect Alan McCormack to get sent off this game, and he never got sent off. He never got sent off, I don't think, for us. But he was that one player that you just expected to kick someone and get a red card, but it never happened. Look, I think that maybe you're rating him a bit higher than what he maybe is. I think that he's got had a lot of influence in that team, and he was great at the time and exactly what we needed. But for me, I wouldn't say he's the GOAT. I'd go into elite. I think he's done a lot for the football club, and he was that player that we needed at the time. But I wouldn't put him in the same category as like Kevin O'Connor or Jota. For me, he's elite. Elite.
Callum, you have the deciding vote, my friend.
I'm going purely because I rate him as a player. I'm going to go Brentford GOAT.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think it's warranted in terms of the four variables that we're going off, the four metrics. Quality was there in the Championship, maybe wouldn't have stood the test in the Premier League. Longevity was there for long enough. Status around the club, I think he's viewed by a club legend as most people. And ability, I think I've already mentioned ability, but yeah, Craig, you've been overruled, my good friend. Sorry about that. Alan McCormack into Brentford GOAT.
I'm pretty sure McCormack was the one chasing after that dog at Crewe Away all those years ago. Do you remember when a husky running around? I was like, what on earth is going on? Honestly, just see this thing running around for about 5 minutes. Everyone's standing around.
The game where we decided to have goal of the season competition in the same game.
All three of them.
Absolute pearlers. Right, another controversial one. Let's go for it. Let's go Marcelo Trotta. What are we thinking? This is a big one because obviously he had all the Doncaster fallout, but he came back the next season, and he was very good for us. So, Craig, what are you thinking? Marcelo Trotta, where are you putting him?
I'm sure he did that miss on purpose as a Fulham player on loan to Brentford. But he then came back the next season. He right his wrong. And if we're going to talk about iconic moments that play a big part in Brentford history, that goal away at Leyton Orient to basically all but seal promotion in my eyes to the Championship. I'm actually going to go in elite, not Brentford GOAT, purely from the fact he came from Fulham, and I can't do that.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think you're absolutely bang on the money in terms of iconic moments. Marcelo, fucking great goal. Brisbane Road, we still sing it now. So, I think that says everything about the impact that he's made. Callum, is that unanimous? I'm going elite too.
I was torn, boys. I was torn. I think that, sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit was probably one I was going towards. But I sometimes look at it and say, if he didn't miss that penalty and we went up to the championship under Rosler, would we have been in the same position where we were, when we'd gone up? I actually think we had a stronger team the year after. Obviously we went up and we did what we did the year after that as well. I actually think we could have been contenders to go down, controversially. Like, you looked at the championship that season and you looked at how many times we drew under Rosler as well. And I just think under the team we had that season, I actually think we seriously would have struggled. We would have had teams like Leicester in the championship, Leeds that season, if we would have gone up, if he scored that penalty. I'm going to go sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit. But your boys overrule me, so
yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you, but I think that moment, like Craig said, if we're talking about iconic Brentford moments, that goal at Brisbane Road, I think pushes him up one.
It's two iconic moments on the total opposite ends of the spectrum, isn't it? It's the scoring the goal that all but seals promotion, and then missing the penalty, which takes promotion out of our hands. But Callum, I think you're totally right, mate. If we'd have gone up that season, look at what's happened to Doncaster, look what's happened to Yeovil. That could have been us.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? He's got a set of bollocks on him, because to miss that penalty and then to come back the next season, I think it shows Marcelo Trotter the man. Maybe Sergi should have been taking notes from someone like Marcelo Trotter. Anyway, let's carry on with the list. We'll go Marco Jurichin, iconic moment, but apart from that goal against QPR, I don't think he warrants being in the top two categories for me. I'd be inclined to go sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. I wouldn't put him in shit just because I thought he was a fairly decent player when he was at it. And obviously he does have that iconic goal against QPR. Academy shaking your head, so I'm going to pass to you.
I'm shaking my head. And he was a player whose attitude, if we're talking about attitude, I didn't like it. I look back, we played Hull at the end of the season. We lost on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and he just walked off the pitch. And just things weren't working out for him. He was a player with potential. We could have signed him. We chose not to. And it was for a lot of money as well. So I'm going shit, regardless of whether he scored against QPR or not. Simple
Craig,
as that.
You got the deciding vote, mate.
Do you know what? I would tend to agree with Callum based on attitude and that, but because of that QPR goal, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because of that QPR goal, solely on that. But I agree with everything that Callum said, but solely on that QPR goal, I'm going to go sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but were we like right in the middle of a really poor run in form when he scored, when we played QPR? I don't know why, but I'm thinking maybe we'd been on a run of bad results.
We just sacked. Well, Dijkhuizen had gone that early that season, hadn't they? We were very low with players on the ground, and it was the first time we played QPR for a very, very long time. So, yes, we were on a bit of a barren run at that time, and I think we were kind of a bit from the season before still, weren't we? Where we had such hype and then it just wasn't delivering. So, but yeah, it was a Halloween evening. I remember when he scored that, when it was on television.
Yeah, it's just occurred to me that I could have stuck some managers in this list. That would have been good fun as well. But
save it for another time.
Alas, I can't make that into a whole episode.
Save it for another time.
Right, let's go. Where are we going next? We're going Emiliano Marcondes. Moments springs to mind. I think that's the most important metric. Second goal against Swansea in the playoff final. And to be fair, ability-wise, in the second half of that season, he came in. I can't remember who he was replacing because he was kind of a bit part player, and I used to get really frustrated when we used to start him, or when Frank used to start him. And then in that second half of the season, he did turn very good. And obviously there was quite a bit of bitterness with the way he left because I think he wanted to stay, but he wasn't in Thomas Frank's plan for the Prem. So I'm going to let you two mull over this while I'm going to let you two discuss whilst I mull this over. Craig, I'm coming to you first, mate. Emiliano Marcondes, where are you putting him?
This might be controversial, but I'm going Brentford GOAT. Scoring that second goal in the playoff final, and if we're talking about iconic moments, stealing the playoff final trophy and running around Brentford, it might be the most iconic thing that has happened to him. It's one of those weird ones again, but if we're talking moments, him and I know we'll get to him, Ivan, that's probably the most significant moment, bar certain signings, which we'll also come to, that has played the biggest factor in where the football club is today. So for me, Emiliano Marcondes is Brentford GOAT.
Right, we'll pick up from where we left off. We had a slight internet problem on Callum's end. I think Craig, you said that he goes in Brentford GOAT purely for the iconic moment in that he scored, obviously, that huge goal in the playoff final. Callum, you had something different to say, so I'll let you take it away. Bollocks, we lost him again. Right, we're back again after some more technical issues on Callum's end. But Callum, Emiliano Marcondes, what are you thinking?
I think personally, in my opinion, I'm going to put him in sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit. Personally, because he didn't live up to expectations, in my opinion. You know, he came with a lot when we signed him from Denmark, and you know, a lot of rave reviews. He just simply didn't live up to it. So yes, he did score that goal in the final, and yes, we could put him down for that as an elite player. Personally, if we look at his overall game, I would say personally sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I think you both raised very good points. Don't think he lived up to his potential, but he did have the iconic moment, and also running around Kew Bridge with the trophy was also very good. So I'm going to put him in the middle of where you've both gone, and I think that'll be a good middle ground. What do you think?
Go on,
I think
crack
so.
on.
I think so.
I just want to point out that we've said that this is not purely about footballing ability as well.
Yeah, but all of it together.
Moments. Yeah.
No, yeah, Brentford
moments
combined with the ability, combined with the longevity, and combined with the status around the club. I would say, you know, whilst that moment is amazing in and of itself, I think in terms of his ability, I'd go as far as saying he was shit. Personally, I think that moment brings him up to elite.
He also did score. Didn't he score twice in the playoff semi-final to turn the Swansea game around?
Yeah, you do make good points. I'm sticking with elite though. I think just in terms of the ability, was so disappointed by the signing, and there was so much hype around it. I'm going to stick with elite, and I think Judge rules elite. Let's go for it. Marcus Bean, next player, cult hero at
Elite.
Brentford for me. I
elite.
think
just straight away. Elite.
Yeah. Let's go for it. No discussions there. Neil Mopay, big one. Brentford GOAT, in my opinion. Ability-wise, we saw it in the Championship. Longevity-wise, he's back with us now, and I don't see him going. I think we're going to extend his loan. Moments, that whole season, Brentford shithousery at its peak, he was at the centre of everything. And he could be so much worse than he is playing at the moment, and he'd still be my Brentford GOAT. That's my decision. Craig, what do you reckon?
I'm going to go in elite. I think if he hadn't come back to Brentford, he would have been a Brentford GOAT. If he hadn't come back to Brentford, he would have been.
You can't say that. You can't say that. You can't say that. I'm going to keep it brief and say Brentford GOAT. Might put him in Brentford GOAT because we're going to overrule Craig on this one.
Yeah, you can overrule twice. You've been overruled, Craig.
I do want to say I love Neil Maupay, and he will go down as a club legend no matter what anyway. But he's not really a Premier League player. You know, he's a bit shit at the minute. He's not the greatest, and maybe that's unfortunately being compared to recent strikers that we've had. Well, I say recent strikers, comparing him to Ivan Toney, who's coming back, doesn't do him a massive amount of favours. I'm more than happy for him to go in the Brentford GOAT, but I'm terrified that him coming back is going to taint what he had when we was in the Championship.
It's funny because we've just done Marcondes and we're talking about moments. I feel like there are enough moments and the status as well for him to be in GOAT. Just because the moments
I'm happy for him to go in there. Happy for him to go in there.
I think we should stick with GOAT. Let's get someone in the Brentford rejects because John Swift's looking awfully lonely down there. Let's go Dan Bentley. I think that's unanimous Brentford reject. I was actually considering calling the category the Dan Bentley category. So I think that speaks volumes. Is that unanimous?
Controversial.
No, yeah.
Okay,
do you know what? I would rather you chucked. I'd rather you chuck James Tarkowski in Brentford rejects than Dan Bentley.
I agree. Tarkowski with his off-field antics. That was the worst out of the lot. Point out,
but ability though. Tarkowski ability.
But again,
yeah, but if we're going,
he completely tainted. Go on, Callum.
Go on. No, I'm just no, Craig. You're going to say exactly what I was going to say. He completely tainted his Brentford career by his off-field antics. By far, one of the worst ever seen. Throwing his toys out the pram, saying, "I'm not going to play for your football club again," and pointing out, refusing to play against Burnley on that evening on Sky. Yeah, put him in the Brentford rejects.
All right, you've overruled me. James Tarkowski is going in Brentford rejects, and we're going Dan Bentley in shit.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'd probably disagree, just partly because I actually think he was a rather good keeper.
Callum, mate, what are you smoking tonight?
I'm being deadly serious, boys. I actually think he had. Listen. He came in and he did very well. Look, we signed him from Southend. Host of clubs were after him, and I actually think he did a very good job. He made a few mistakes, but every goalkeeper makes mistakes. I actually think he did well for us. So I would have put him in. The middle category. Just saying.
But Craig, go on, Craig, take it away, mate. That reaction.
After the next podcast, I don't give a fuck what the result is. Callum, if you say anything about Mark Flecken, we're just going to throw this video straight back in your face, okay? I don't care what you say now.
Please feel free. I'm being deadly serious. We're judging it on what
I don't care what you say.
I
don't care what you say. This video is getting replayed back.
All right, you tell me what Bentley realistically did to deserve to be in Brentford rejects or shit. Realistically, you tell me.
Across a whole season. Across a whole season, it was clanger after clanger after clanger. It's like he was the worst goalkeeper I've seen at Brentford, and we've had bloody Fernandez in goal.
I don't think he should be. I don't think he should be Brentford rejects, but I think he should be shit because I created a Twitter thread, Callum. You know, I created that Twitter thread of all the mistakes that he made that got plastered all over again Twitter when he signed for Bristol City because they thought they signed this unreal keeper. Nah, he was shit.
Okay, feel free.
I'm putting him in shit. Right, next one. Let's go blast from the past. Miles Weston. For me, he goes in elite.
I think,
great. Yeah, I think elite in terms of status as well, longevity there too. Ability, maybe not the best, but it's all relative compared to what leagues we're in. As I mentioned at the top of the show, for me, he goes into elite. And Craig, no matter what you say, if me and Callum are saying elite, I'll let you have your 2 cents.
No. All I was gonna say, he's one of my favourite Brentford players ever. Because I love him so much. So I would say GOAT because he's one of my favourite players ever, but I'm happy for him to go in elite.
Let's chuck him in elite. Let's go for it. Right. Let's pick who we go next. Let's go Alex Pritchard next. Bit of a weird one with Alex Pritchard because we all wanted him to stay after that season. And I was watching the North East Derby, the Time Weir Derby the other day. And I've known that he's played for Sunderland for ages, but I was just watching him and I was thinking he was Sunderland's best player by a long way, probably got the closest to them scoring as well. And I just don't know really what happened with Alex Pritchard because we all thought that he was going back to Tottenham because he was in Poch's plans. Never quite worked out for him. And now he's at Sunderland. I always thought when he played for Brentford, I was thinking this guy's destined to play in the Premier League. In terms of ability, I would go as far as to say he was our best player that season. I would put him in elite. Callum, I'm going to throw to you. What do you think?
Agreed. I'll put him in elite. I look back at the Wigan game or the last game of the season, which got us into the playoffs. He scored a fantastic free kick that day. Overall, his ability was second to none. Gutted that we couldn't get him on a permanent, but is what it is. But yeah, I'm going to go elite.
Craig, unanimous?
I think that's unanimous. He was that lone player. You know, people say don't fall in love with lone players, but he's the lone player that we all fell in love with.
Yeah. Let's go Stuart Dallas. Stuart Dallas for me is straight into Brentford rejects. I fucking hate that man. And that bloody Leeds video that came about after they got promoted pissed me off so much. And I don't wish ill on players, but when he got injured, I wasn't sad about it. We can just say that. So for me, it's Brentford rejects. Craig,
firmly agree. Don't want him.
Callum,
don't want him. I don't want him anywhere near the likes.
I thought we would get.
Jensen.
I mean, I put him in the middle of the park again. Personally, fair enough. His off-field antics made him look like a bit of an idiot. But I mean, other than that, I actually think he was a good servant for Brentford. That's my personal opinion. You look at where he came from to what he went to. He went from down. You know, obviously he was in the Irish League. We signed him up, turned into an incredible player. Went off to Leeds. You know. We will remember him for what happened when Leeds got promoted. Fair enough. But who had the final laugh at the end? That's what we got to remember at this moment in time. So
I'm still too salty about that video. Sorry, I'm coming across right now, but I'm sticking straight with rejects.
I do feel bad. I agree with you, Mike, that I don't want him to be known as anything other than a dickhead because of what he did. But I also... if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had that 4-1 day at Fulham as well.
Yeah.
So Derby at home as well, you know, when he scored that last-minute winner. And I'll tell you, there were some good scenes on the Ealing Road that day as well.
In the paddock. That's a good season in the paddock, mate.
Paddock, Ealing Road. I mean, it was down their end. You know, it was in slow-mo when that ball went in the back of the net. So you got to remember those times, boys. You got to remember those times, regardless of how you may think what he did after was that bad. It was bad, but you know, you judge it on what he did previously. And I will say, put him in the middle of the park. But your opinion.
I'm still firm on Brentford rejects. I just think that video I don't remember being as livid as I was when I saw that video about any kind of fallout with any other Brentford player before. Just oh god, it still pisses me off to this day. So I'm sticking firm with Brentford rejects. Craig, you've got the deciding vote. We could go in the middle. We could put him in the shit category.
Or maybe I'll do the split decision that you did to me. I can't even fucking remember who that was with. We'll chuck him in the shit. Chuck him in the shit.
I think that's a good call. Right. Who are we going on to next? Jonathan Douglas, I think, has to be Brentford GOAT because he made an appearance on the Ealing Road podcast, and we can't put anyone that's been on the Ealing Road podcast anywhere other than Brentford GOAT. But
put him in.
Craig, good.
No
Harley Dean. Let's go Harley Dean. Any bitterness still around the Harley Dean thing? I would still say Stuart Dallas pissed me off more than Harley Dean has. Just because...
I had a song ready for Harley Dean, actually, funny enough, actually.
Cheer up.
Should I have a little play on the little song? I've got it here, a little
You got it ready?
Believer. Yes, I did. I don't know if you boys heard it at the start of the song, but it's just a bit.
Technical issues again, Callum. I think we all know the song, mate.
I mean, whoever's DJ that night when we beat Birmingham City. Listen. Look, I mean, you look back again as to what he did for Brentford previously. I'm gonna go. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Personally, in my opinion. Yeah, others will say otherwise, but you know.
What are you thinking, Greg?
Do you know what? I'm thinking that there are some good memories that Harley Dean gave us. The equalising goal against Fulham, another penalty against Swindon in that semi-final, and then winning promotion from League One. His antics, much like Tarkowski, much like Dallas, has tainted what could have been another Brentford GOAT. I would say put him in shit with Stuart Dallas.
Yeah, I don't think his off the field antics do anything to help him, and I don't think he can be above shit after his on field antics. But like you say, had he not done that, similar to Tarkowski, similar to, well, maybe not similar to John Swift because he was just dreadful, but similar to Sergi and Tarkowski and Dallas, maybe higher. But we're looking at it holistically. We're not looking at it just purely on ability. There's several factors that are going into this ranking. Right, let's move on. Let's go to Alan Judge. I think this might be unanimous again. I'm going Brentford GOAT. Moments, ability, longevity, status. For me, Brentford GOAT. Craig?
I'm going Brentford GOAT. That goal
Callum?
against Preston.
Yeah, put him in. Put him in. I don't even. Yeah, easy ones like this. Easy.
Yeah, let's go for it. I'm going to leave the one on the left to the last because I think that's going to stir the most debate. Let's go. Let's go Moses Odebajo, because I talked about this off camera before we started recording. I genuinely was so gutted when Moses Odebajo left, especially in that season when we just come up from the Championship. I thought he was sheer class in terms of a right back that has everything you want in a right back. Good in 1v1 defensive moments, can go forward. He actually played as a number 10, or he played in a front three when we signed him from Orient. And he kind of, I don't know if I think he started most games at right back when we were in the Championship, but he could play in the front three too. In terms of ability, I would put him in elite, but I feel like you two might have something to say about that. So Craig, I'll let you go first.
I don't even remember where we bought him from. Like you just said, Leighton Orient, but I couldn't remember that.
Leighton Orient, Craig, Leighton Orient.
Thanks. It's thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's a good job Mike didn't mention it beforehand. Otherwise, I would have never known. I think it's a difficult one because that first season when we came up from the Championship, and I remember it might have even been the second season. Might have been second season. I can't remember the Birmingham home game. We drew 1-1. I think Tony Craig got sent off for a foul on Clayton Donaldson. We drew 1-1 that game, and he scored the equalising goal. You're right. He was probably one of the better players that season. Defensively, he was fantastic. We could do with a defender now, so if he wants to, put his boots back on, come play for us, wouldn't mind it. It's a difficult one for me because I don't really know. I'm kind of mulling over elite. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. I'm kind of curious to what Callum thinks to see where I might go here.
No, I think look, you got to look. He left, unfortunately, in fashion to go to Hull, and then. But what I liked is that he came back, and then he had an incredible season with us. I'm gutted he left only after a season, but I actually think he goes into elite personally because of what he did for Brentford over that first season in the Championship, and then returned back to the club. And I remember the first game he had in the team was against Arsenal in the League Cup when he came back and played incredible. It was like he'd never been away. So I think he goes into elite personally because of what he did for Brentford over his 2 seasons playing for the club.
I think that's a good shout. Let's go to Farid El Alagoui. And I think I'm going to have a controversial take here because he's given us one singular moment against Gillingham away. And apart from that, I don't think he's offered that much. And I don't think he was very good, to be honest. So I would be leaning towards shit, or sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, personally. But I'll let you two I'll let you two decide, and then we can go from there. Craig, I'll come to you first, mate.
Brentford GOAT. I loved him. I loved Farid. That Gillingham game. I just remember on the scaffolding of an away end, scoring in the last minute, and that was the year we got promoted, if I'm not mistaken. That kick-started the season. Realistically, probably not the greatest of players, and maybe it's nostalgia that's kicking me, but I wouldn't have any issues with putting him in. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Callum, you've got the deciding vote, mate.
Going to agree with Craig. Put him in the middle
Yeah.
of the park.
Let's go. Faradil Alagui, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Who should we go for next? Pontus Jansson, unanimous. Brentford go.
Brentford go. We don't even have to talk about it, honestly.
No, we don't. We don't. We really don't. Let's go Romain Sawyers. Romain Sawyers, controversial one. Callum, I feel like you might have something to say about Romain Sawyers. Personally, I don't know if he has enough to be Brentford GOAT, but I think he's a shoe-in for Brentford elite. I know he got scapegoated quite a bit, but when he was at his best, especially towards the back end of when he was playing for Brentford, I thought he was an absolute Rolls Royce of a player in the middle of the park, and it really used to frustrate me when people used to get angry with him in the stands because they thought he was lazy. But I think his footballing mind was just on another level. If you ever watched just him when he was just playing, he was 2 steps ahead of everyone, and he didn't need to be so kind of intense when he was playing, which is maybe why he had that kind of theme of him being lazy that kind of lingered around him. I would put him in elite, Craig. Where would you put him?
I mean, it's hard to disagree. It's hard to disagree with that. But he was that Marmite player, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was the Marmite player. Josh McEachran was the Marmite player. Jensen is the most recent Marmite player. Now, for me, what sticks out him as a player is sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. And that seems to define him as a player in a Brentford shirt. You know, there were games where he was shit hot, and then there were games where he was completely non-existent. But if I was to describe him as a player, I would put him dead in the middle, because he could be an outstanding player and he could be a non-existent player in the midfield. But based on status and memories and things like that, I would put him in elite with you.
Callum, what are you thinking?
Elite. Just elite, yeah. Quality player, how he's put that ball around the pitch at times. Yeah, elite for me.
Perfect. We will go on to Lasavibe. Callum, thoughts on Lasavibe? In my opinion, I thought he was one of the most frustrating players I've ever seen put on a Brentford shirt. But what would you think of Lasavibe?
Couldn't sum it up better myself. Again, another player who had a lot of potential for Brentford. Personally, I don't feel he went up to the hype of what I would have wanted him to be honest with you. He did have some good moments in there, but mostly I don't think he did enough for Brentford. So I sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, I'd agree. Craig?
He scored a few goals for Brentford. You can't argue that. That's just a fact. He did have a couple of good memories. You know, ones that stick out to me is goals in that Burton away game where we won 5-3, and their goal again at Reading, which I think we won 1-0 that game with a late goal where it was a bit of a mix-up in the middle, weren't there? I think it might have been Josh Clark played the ball into him, or Joseph Soon, or whoever it was at the time. But yeah, incredibly frustrating player. You just didn't know what you was going to get from him. So sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, I think that's a good call for Lasser. Someone, was it? I think it was Will or Tom wound him up on Twitter trying to sell him something. I can't remember the story, but it went a little bit viral on Twitter. I remember that. Let's go Sam Wood. Sam Wood, I think, moments player. I remember Birmingham City away after beating Everton, even though we lost on pens. Or did we lose on pens?
We did lose on pens, and Kevin
Phillips
Phillips on
popping
pens,
up.
Yeah. But that goal to put us 1-0 up at Birmingham, that was a great moment in my time as a Brentford fan. Well. So I don't know if he warrants going elite just for that though. If you talk about, the bigger picture, I don't know if that goal puts him in elite on its own. I mean, he was a good player and he was at the club for a very long time. Craig, I'm intrigued to hear what you think.
I mean, he had a wand of the left foot, didn't he? He did, everyone knew what he was capable of doing. And you kind of wish that you saw more of him. I'm trying to think of it. It might have been, didn't he score like a great volley against Wickham or something like that?
Someone Callum, like that. I know the goal you're talking about.
Seems like one of the random ones you'd remember, Callum. Look, if we're talking about like nostalgia and history, I'd go elite. But I'd also say he was just one of those team players that we had through those early years of pushing up the leagues. So I'd have no qualms putting him in elite. I'd also have no issue putting him in sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Callum, over to you, son.
I'm going to put him in elite personally because I think he was a great player on and off the pitch for Brentford.
Yeah, I'll take that. Let's move on. Let's go Jake Bidwell. For me, 7 out of 10 every game. And I never thought that he would go on to bigger and better things. And he hasn't gone on to bigger and better things. But he did captain the club for a period. And he did end up going to QPR, which I've just remembered now. So I'm not sure I can put him anything above shit, actually. Now that I've actually realised that. I'm going to go shit. Callum, I'm going to throw to you, mate. What are you thinking?
Disagree. I think a player servant of what he did for Brentford over a variety of seasons. He offered a lot for us and made that left back position his. All right, yes, he went to QPR, but taking that out of account, he did serve Brentford Football Club very, very well. So, off the back of that, I'm going to put him in elite.
Would you boo him if we played him now?
Not at all. I think he's that. No, not at all. I wouldn't personally, in my opinion, because yes, he did go to QPR, and yes, look, they are our rivals at the end of the day. But realistically, he did very, very well for Brentford. You've got to remember that. And again, he came again on loan, and then we then signed him on a permanent shortly after. And he kicked on, and he is still playing at a very, very good level. He went to Swansea after, and then he's now at Coventry and doing very well there as well. So, personally, I think he deserves to go into elite.
Craig?
I'm going to do the unbiased.
I think sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Go on.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. I agree with what Callum said. And a memory of Jake Bidwell sticks out to me is Preston away, where he scored his first goal for Brentford after about 3 years playing for us. And then he went on to score like 3 out of 4 games. If he hadn't gone to QPR, I would have agreed to Callum and said elite. But I can't let that slide, unfortunately.
No, you can't. He was such a good player, but such a predictable player. You knew what he was going to do every single time he got the ball down the left-hand side. If he was going to beat his man, he would never go inside. He would always go on his outside. And he had such a distinctive playing style, but such a distinctively boring playing style, which is why I don't think he should be an elite. And also, he went to QPR, which you just can't do. You just can't do that. Let's go to Glenn Poole, reminiscing. Glenn Poole, a few goals, hat trick against Wickham, was it? I think, or am I thinking about the wrong man in League Two?
To be honest with you, he did contribute. That was the 3-3 game that season. And it was honestly, it was the first time I'd really seen Griffin Park full in a league game. Actually, it was an incredible atmosphere that day. I know he scored that day. Actually, I'm not sure if he scored a hat trick, but anyway, I would put him in elite. I think what he offered again off and on the pitch of Brentford Football Club will be remembered for a very, very long time. I think he's a quality man. I've got him on Facebook as well, so he's going into elite.
That's another metric we're measuring on, whether or not Callum has a player on Facebook. Didn't Glenn Poole get himself into trouble recently with something that he posted on social media? Am I imagining that?
I think you're imagining that.
I swear I saw something that he retweeted something that was controversial or something along those lines. Maybe I'll do some Googling afterwards. Craig, what are you thinking? Are you putting him in elite?
Yeah. The picture that you've got is him holding the League Two trophy.
Yeah,
it's a bit of an injustice to put him in anything. I've used that word far too much. Injustice. It'd be wrong to put him in anything other than elite. And to say maybe he's in a bit of hot water for something that's up on social media, respectfully, no one knows who Glenpool is. It's fine. Unless you're a Brentford fan, no one knows who Glenpool
Yeah,
is.
I swear I swear I remember a Brentford fan saying he's gone down in my estimations or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'll find it afterwards. But anyway, we'll move on. Leon Legg, elite for me. I think some of the goals that he's got, is it Gillingham at home or Oldham at home? One of those blue kit teams. Last minute equaliser, or maybe it was Oxford.
It was a 3-3 game against MK, and
there was another one as well, though, wasn't there?
Charlton away, he scored the
He
winner
had a fair few.
as well.
Late on. I remember.
I think elite.
No, in Leon Legg, put a Leon Legg in elite, quality man on off the pitch, and
Isn't he
Charlie
still
Mack
playing now for Port Vale?
Who? Leon Legg? Yes,
he was at Port Vale. He was at Port Vale.
Or he might have just stopped playing. I don't know.
No, he's playing
Charlie Mack.
We'll go Charlie Mack. Yeah, I don't know who he's playing for at the moment. I tried to do a quick Google.
Brentford go. Charlie McDonald.
Charlie Mack.
Go.
Sure.
Brentford go.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's go. Who have we got next? Richard Lee, goalkeeper, Union Craig. Where are you putting Richard Lee? Moments, the Everton game at home in the cup stands out. I'll let you decide where we put Richard Lee.
Our penalty hero on many occasions. Charlton in the JPT semi-final also springs to mind. I'm going to go elite. I think he's got a lot of respect from a lot of Brentford fans. He did so much for the club when he wore the shirt. Everton game, lots of memories. I'd go for elite myself.
Callum?
No, going Brentford go.
Brentford go.
I'm putting Brentford go. You've got to look at, again, a player, what he took us to Wembley single-handedly, in my opinion. And I was so gutted in that home game where he got taken off that pitch with that injury. And we knew he would be out because he single-handedly got us to Wembley on that run and contributed, obviously, on the League Cup run that same season, which for a season in the league, which was rather disappointing, those two cup runs savoured something from that season. So, and then obviously then to come back and then, under Rosler, he played a lot of games in there as well. For me, he's got to be a Brentford GOAT, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to put him in Brentford GOAT, and then I'm going to go straight to David Raya as my next one, just to spice things up a little bit. Where are we putting David Raya? In my opinion, ability-wise, best goalkeeper that we've had. I didn't really have any complaints with him leaving the club because he was above our standard, and I knew that he was going to go on to bigger and better things eventually. Was fantastic. Obviously, he has that terrible moment at Wembley in Fulham in the playoff final, which we won't talk about too much. It's a difficult one. I would go with elite. I would go with elite. Yeah, okay. It's not a very difficult one.
No. Like you say, he's arguably the best goalkeeper we've ever had.
Well, what about the next one? Wojciech Szczesny. Craig.
He's the second best goalkeeper we've ever had.
I disagree, Craig. I disagree. I actually disagree. He was a goalkeeper. Honestly, some of these saves he would put off. We went to Wickham. He saved a penalty when we went there on the Tuesday night. He was incredible that evening. I remember Swindon when they had Charlie Austin playing. He pulled off some incredible saves that day. We lost 3-2, but he was absolutely sensational, honestly. And he still looks out for Brentford. Honestly, he does. I remember a year or two ago he was tweeting about Brentford. He had it on his Instagram. Brentford kicked off his career, and for me, I'm putting him as a Brentford GOAT. I don't care.
What? Hang on. Why are you digging at me for something? I didn't even say anything about Szczesny yet. Like, I haven't even said anything about Szczesny.
He's the best keeper. He is the best keeper I have seen at Brentford.
Szczesny. Brentford GOAT.
100%.
I would put Szczesny in Brentford GOAT. I agree with everything that Callum said. I didn't disagree. I don't know why you was mad at me for a moment then.
I'm voicing my opinion.
He's having a little domestic. Szczesny and Brentford GOAT above David Raya in elite.
Yes, you've been outranked, I'm afraid.
Mike, you're going to have to go back and look at some of the saves he pulled off that season.
I would like.
You look
I
at. I
would
tell you
like
what.
to
Here's a game
talk.
you should find out. MK away, where Charlie McDonald.
Oh my
scores.
God! You literally read my mind. I was just about to talk about that game.
It was an absolute, honestly, performance from Brentford. Honestly, somehow I've been to many games watching Brentford, and that was a smash and grab. They had about 20 odd shots on goal. Somehow he's clawed off some of these saves. Honestly, I don't know how he did it. I really don't know how he did it. And then we score as late as we did through Charlie McDonald. Honestly, the limbs in that away, and there was only about 400 of us, if that. It was if that. But yeah, no, it was a smash and grab. So Wojciech Szczesny, good man.
All right, I've been overruled. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. Ryan Woods. What are we thinking, Ryan Woods? This is a tricky one because one that I did not want to see Ryan Woods leave Brentford, and he was so pivotal in that team. Every game he played, he would completely control it. If we were playing well, he was at the center of everything. I don't quite know where his career's gone, to be honest, because for that kind of player, for that focal point of the team that everything goes through, which he was, and that's just him as a player. I'm sure that he was the same player wherever he went next. I really thought that he would go on to bigger things, but I don't think we can put him in Brentford GOAT purely because not really that many moments. The only thing you would put him in Brentford GOAT for would be his ability. So I would go elite, Craig.
Am I mistaken in saying that he was one of the players that was part of the Birmingham smash and grab when they came and got a few of our players, or was that the next season?
No.
He definitely went to.
He did go to Birmingham at one point,
didn't he?
Yeah, he went to.
Woods was there for the season. Woods was there for a season after, I believe. He was there under Dykhouse and under Smith and co. So he left.
I think he went to Stoke, and then I think he followed Gary Rowett around for a bit, didn't he? Because I think
who did he go to after us? Was it Stoke?
Yeah, Stoke.
But the reason he left us was family issues, wasn't it? Because he's from up that way normally. He's from up that way and he left us. Obviously, it was never on bad terms. Unfortunately, family issues meant he had to leave the club anyway. I wouldn't say he's Brentford GOAT. My favourite memory of Ryan Woods is that goal away at Reading.
Yeah.
But he was that player that you could always rely on, no matter what happened. It was never a fantastic, amazing performance, but it was never a terrible performance. He was always reliable. I say that as I also remember the Leeds home game when we beat them 3-1, and he was outstanding that game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to agree with you, Mike, and go elite. I'm also curious as to where Callum goes.
Callum, what are you thinking?
Play a bit elite. I agree.
Perfect. Right, we're on the last row of players. I'm just going to signpost for anyone listening on Spotify. In Brentford GOAT, we have Adam Forshaw, Henrik Dalsgaard, Matty Jensen, Jota, Kevin Maka, Morpay, Dougie, Judge, Janssen, Charlie Mack, Richard Lee, and Wojciech Szczesny. Don't know what the hell he's doing there. Elite, we've got Andre Gray, Jordan Rhodes, Carly Osborne, Marcelo Trotter, Emi Marcondes, Marcus Bean, Miles Weston, Alex Pritchard, Moses Odebajo, Romain Sawyers, Sam Wood, Glenn Poole, Leon Legg, David Raya and Ryan Woods. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Is not a very popular category. We've got Harry Forrester, Philip Hoffman, who now in retrospect I think should be lower down, Marco Jurichin, Faradil Alagui, Lasse Vibe, and Jake Bidwell. And in shit, we have Konstantin Kirchbaumer, Sergi Canos, Dan Bentley, Stuart Dallas, who I still think should be in Brentford reject, but whatever. Harley Dean, and then the only two Brentford rejects we have so far are James Tarkowski and John Swift. I think we might have to do a little tribunal on Sergi Canos and Stuart Dallas, mainly Stuart Dallas, because I just don't think he should be anywhere above Brentford reject. But we're on to the final row of players. Ryan Dixon, that's a bit of a flash from the past. We'll start with Ryan Dixon. Weird player because he had so much ability on, I think it was the left he played. Some of the tricks, you'd look at him and you wouldn't think that he would be this kind of trickster that he was. But some of the mazy runs that he used to go on were just unbelievable. Similar play to Sam Wood in that it's all relative. In terms of ability, I would put him in between sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, and elite. But if we're putting Sam Woods in elite, I think we might also have to put Ryan Dixon in elite, Callum.
Agreed. I thought he was another incredible left back that Brentford had over that period of time. Another player I was gutted. Brentford back then were struggling to keep hold of a lot of players. When big clubs came in and when Southampton came calling, you're not going to turn down that kind of club. Didn't work out for him as much as I imagine it probably he would have wanted to. So I was gutted with how his career went after us. But yeah, I put him in elite partly because I think one of the best left backs again. Around that time we had at Brentford Football Club.
Yeah, Craig.
Well, it's hard to disagree. He was a fantastic left back for us, and that promotion season as well, pivotal as part of that back line. I remember a goal, I think it was against like Dagenham and Redbridge, where he's picked up the ball on the left-hand side, done a bit of a Ronaldo flick and put it into the far bottom corner with his right foot. Fantastic goal. But yeah, some very good memories along with, as you said, players like Glenn Paul and Farid and Sam Woods. Yeah,
I'm just looking at this last row. I'm thinking all of these players going to Brentford Goats. Let's rattle them off. Well, actually, no, the last one. Right. Let's start with Ollie Watkins. Callum, Ollie Watkins, where does he go? Someone that's caused a bit of a shitstorm in recent weeks that some people still haven't forgotten about for his antics when we played Villa at home. Where does Ollie Watkins go? Has he completely ruined his legacy from that celebration?
Not at all. I mean, look, it wasn't the best of reactions from Watkins, and to be honest with you, it's something that we will remember for a very, very long time. Would I say it ruins his legacy? Some will say yes, some will say no. I personally would say no. I think you've got to look at that player that came in from Exeter and kicked on the way he did for us and lived up to potential. I think the few Brentford players who did live up to potential when we signed him as a wonder kid. So for me, he goes into elite, regardless of take out what happened the other week. If you're remembering personally for a Brentford Football Club player, you put him in as an elite, in my opinion.
Craig,
that celebration shouldn't. We've talked about antics for other players and how we've marked them down, but I feel like it's hard to knock Ollie Watkins for his contribution for the football club on and off the pitch. His attitude when he pulled the shirt on was impeccable for Brentford, always. And you could see how distraught players like him, Saeed, and Brian were when unfortunately we didn't get promoted the season he left. And it's just, I find it hard for people to dislike him as a person as well. You look at his relationship with Woody, who a lot of Brentford fans should know about. And a lot of fans who aren't even Brentford fans will know about Woody and his relationship that he has with him. I feel like he has the utmost respect for the football club and for 99.9% of the fans. And unfortunately, one person's got under his skin and he's bitten at it, and it will mark him down in some people's estimations, but not for me. I agree with Callum. He should go into elite.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I hope Brentford fans won't be angry at that, because I know that there were a few angry at his antics against Villa. But we continue. Let's go on to Ivan Toney. After putting Ollie Watkins in elite, where do we place Ivan Toney? Because for me, I can't put him in Brentford Goat. I can't put him in Brentford Goat due to off-the-pitch antics. Having said that, I would say he's the second best player I've seen play for Brentford behind someone that we're going to talk about very soon. So his ability would be what puts him into Brentford Goat, but I don't think you can call someone a Brentford Goat or a Brentford legend with the way he's gone on about the club. So I would put him in the same category as Ollie Watkins in elite. Craig, I'm going to let you take it away.
Ivan Toney's arguably the best striker we've ever had. I know we're going to talk about other players that are coming up, but you can't dismiss his contributions to the football club on the pitch. You know, he scored a penalty in the playoff final. He scored, what's he on, about 36 goals in 2 seasons, because obviously he ain't played so far this season. 36 goals in 2 seasons in the Premier League. He, like Pontus Jansson, is one of the most influential signings that we've made. His contributions on the pitch mean we would not be where we are without him. Now, to go the other direction, unfortunately, he's been a massive, massive idiot off the pitch. His behaviour is completely unacceptable, and it can't be dismissed. The way that he's behaved is not okay. I had an argument, or not an argument, maybe a disagreement with someone on social media recently about his status compared to Ollie Watkins. And only recently, I feel since we're coming up to the end of his ban, have we noticed more of Ivan Toney's comments about the club being good comments, how Frank has supported him, how the club have supported him, how the fans have been good to him. I feel like we didn't hear about this stuff beforehand. I know people are going to quote me and they're going to say this is what he said before. Anyway, I want to say he's a Brentford GOAT. I want to say he's a Brentford GOAT because we wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for him. If he hadn't broken the championship goal record, if he hadn't come and scored 20 goals in a Premier League season, I feel his contributions on the pitch outweigh his contributions off the pitch now. And we've never needed him more than what we currently need him right now. So for that, I'm gonna say Brentford GOAT. However, I know that a lot of people will agree and a lot of people will disagree. You being one of them, Callum probably being 2.
Go on, Callum.
Disagree. No, I put him in as Brentford GOAT, to be honest with you. Partly because of, as Craig rightfully says, his goal scoring record for Brentford. You got to remember these off-field antics happened, bar obviously the Dubai incident, which didn't help matters, but obviously the betting shenanigans happened before he signed for Brentford. So realistically, I hope he stays at Brentford for a long time to come, but I feel he's got to be a Brentford GOAT. And what you must remember as well, I was there that day. He was the first player for over 80 years to go and be a Brentford player and go and play for England. And I felt immense pride being in that stadium that day. To see a Brentford Football Club player come on the pitch in our national stadium in a competitive football fixture. What a fantastic achievement it was for the football club. So for that opinion, for that reason, and his goal tally for the club, Brentford GOAT.
Oh, boys, I'm not happy with this. I'm really not.
There will be so many people out there that will disagree with what we're saying.
I've been overruled. So,
and this was the hardest one. This was the one that I was thinking we'll disagree on a lot. I didn't expect Callum to agree with me, if I'm being totally honest with you. But look, he's the biggest player at the football club at the moment. He's the biggest player at the football club. He hasn't even played this season so far, and he's still the biggest player at the football club. He'll be our most expensive player ever when we sell him, which I hope is not in January and is in the summer.
Well, I don't disagree that he's not the biggest player at the football club, and he's our most important player, and he has been for the last 3 years. But if I'm rattling through the Brentford GOATs, besides Adam Forshaw, I could say that every single one of those players loves Brentford Football Club through and throughout. I cannot say the same about Ivan Toney. because I don't think he does. And I think he knows that he's bigger than the club. And that's no detriment to him. He's a very good footballer, but don't be so outward about it by, the Dubai video and twerking for a move on Instagram. It's just, I can't put him in it. I can't put him in GOAT, but I've been overruled, so we shall continue. Ivan Toney tabled for now, but we're going to come back to it at the end. So let's rattle these off quickly. I feel like we might need to do a little reshuffle at the end as well, because we need to fill out these shit and Brentford reject categories, because they're very lonely at the moment, these players.
Oh, there's one player I could put him in there, that's for sure. So
no, let's go. Clayton Donaldson, GOAT for sure. I think
Goat.
Brentford GOAT. We don't need to discuss very much.
Sam Saunders, Brentford GOAT.
Brentford GOAT, yeah.
Rico Henry, obviously Brentford GOAT.
Obviously Brentford GOAT.
Damani Diagoraga, what a fucking player.
Dave, GOAT.
Dave, GOAT. Tony Craig, elite or GOAT?
No,
what are we thinking?
GOAT. No, passion.
Yeah, I think
he showed for the
GOAT.
football club.
Just look at that photo as well. What a beautiful man. Let's go. Josh De Silva. I don't know if he's Brentford GOAT yet. I'll probably stick him in elite. Yeah.
Elite, yeah.
Craig, yeah, I think so.
Elite, yeah.
Brian and Bumo.
Elite.
Difficult one. Elite or GOAT?
Yeah.
Elite.
The potential. No.
The potential's there. If he stays at the club for another 2-3 years, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I think the potential is definitely there. Christian Norgard, GOAT.
Elite.
Brentford GOAT.
Oh, GOAT.
Elite.
Surely.
Just elite.
Christian Norgard, club captain. Doesn't matter. Like personally, in my opinion, he has contributed to a lot at the football club, but I think he's elite. I don't think he's a Brentford GOAT. Not just yet.
Oh, I'm still
keeps us up this season. Not that we should be in this position, but
I'm saying Brentford GOAT. Craig,
I'm Brentford GOAT, mate, all the way out.
Yeah,
I love Christian Norgard.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Ethan Pinnock, elite or GOAT?
GOAT.
Yeah, I'd say GOAT. One of the best centre halves we've had, if not the best. And Vitaly Janelt, best Brentford song out of any player, I would say, always gets the most noise. Does that put him in GOAT? I think maybe elite. I'm not sure if he's Christian Norgard's level just yet.
No, look, hang on a minute. Look, you look at the money he came in for when we signed him. He went in as a B team player to start with, and then forced his way into the first team setup. And what a signing he was! And you look at the goal. I mean, it was a bit of a fluke when he scored against Bournemouth, but that set us up for a Wembley game. That allowed us to go ahead, score that third goal, and get to the Wembley. And what he has contributed to the football club over the 3 seasons he has been with the club, or 4 seasons now, in fact. Personally, my opinion, you put him in as a Brentford GOAT.
Over Christian Norgard?
100%.
What Callum, what have you taken tonight, mate? Over Christian Norgard?
I'm not quite sure how you've worked that one out.
I really, and
you look at the player he was. Look, Christian Norgard came in with a bit more of a price tag there. He had played at a level, elsewhere, at a much more competitive level. Vitaly Janelt, you've got to remember, he came in as a B team player. All right, fair enough to build up to a first team player, and I'm glad he's come through. But we paid, I think, £750,000 for him. If you look at one of the B team players that's come through and has shone as well as as an individual like him has, personally, in my opinion, he has got to go in as a Brentford GOAT. For value for money, for what he does on and off the pitch, Brentford GOAT.
No, I don't think
you can label him as a Brentford B player. There's no way you can label him.
He came in as a Brentford.
He might have been. He might have, but he never played as a B team player. He was put straight into the first team. He was never.
Also with Christian Norgard, yes, we signed him from Fiorentina, I want to say, but I don't think he broke. I don't think he broke any ceilings.
I think he was only like 2 mil as well.
Yeah, he made 6
you can move Norgard if you want, but realistically, in my opinion, Janelt is going into Brentford GOAT, whether you boys like it or not.
No,
I think Mate, I don't think he's far off of it. I don't think he's far off of a Brentford goat. You know,
Just not yet.
his first goal coming against QPR as well, is cause for the shout. But give him another season, and I would agree Brentford goat. It's hard to label him a Brentford goat when he's not our main focus of midfield. I'm sorry. I see where you're coming from, Callum, but not yet.
I don't see where you're coming from, Callum, at all. So we're moving on.
Fair enough. Leaving the best to last, I see. Good
Said
news.
Benrahma, GOAT. Brentford GOAT. Undisputed
Brentford
GOAT. Let's put him up there now. And before we have a chat, because we've got a last little segment I want to do we want to do any reshuffling here? Because we've got a lot of players in the league.
I want to put Stuart Dallas in Brentford rejects.
I want to put Stuart Dallas in Brentford rejects as well, so he can go. I want to put Faradell Alagui in shit, to be honest, and I know that a lot of people aren't going to like that, but I think that one moment against Gillingham isn't enough to have him in. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, because most of the time he's pretty shit.
You've got to remember he had a big injury, though. I'd tell you, unfortunately, that injury set him back. So, in my opinion, yes. Look, he scored a few goals for us in that JPT run. He scored a few goals against Wimbledon that time. Put him in some maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Simple as that.
I want to put Hoffman in shit as well, because besides the Forest goal, he was actually shit.
No,
he was actually shit.
That turn at Bristol City away, and I'll tell you, look, I'm going to touch upon it again. It was a fact. Look, get it up. Combination in that first game against Ipswich, honestly, held the ball up nicely. It was a great play, and then that goal. Honestly, that turn bottom corner. Go and have a look at it. It was a great goal. And then he then got himself bloody injured. So, for me, Hoffman stays where he is.
No.
Fans' favourite.
Hoffman's down to shit. You can't be moments. You can't have a turn in moments. That can't go into moments.
The turn and shot on goal and scored the blooming goal. Like, it was a quality finish.
In a dead rubber game
who's like 6'6". No, it wasn't a dead rubber, because by that point it was 3-2. That goal rounded the game off. Job done.
No, I'm not having it.
Wasn't it interesting? I'll tell you.
Wasn't it the first away game of the season, that Hoffman goal?
Yeah,
first away game of the season,
and they were down to 10 as well. I'm pretty sure Bristol,
because one of them fly kicked Harley Dean in the side of the head.
Yeah, no, I Hoffman's down to shit for me. Do we want to do any more rearranging before we do the last segment of the podcast, which is going to be top 5 Brentford players of all time? So we're going to rearrange the Brentford GOATs and just do the top 5, and I'll rearrange it on here. Do we want to do any more switching first?
Nah, move on. We're leaving the best to last.
Top 5s. In my opinion, Saïd Benrahma is number 1.
I didn't even
see it goes
on there. How did you sneak him on there? Honestly, I didn't even get me.
Sleight of hand, mate. Sleight of hand. Saïd Benrahma, for me, is number 1. I'm going Pontus Jansson as number 2. I'm going Rika Henry as number 3.
This is
Who am I going next? Kev O'Connor, maybe above Rika Henry, actually. Kev O'Connor's number 3. Rika Henry's number 4. Who am I going in 5th? I'm going Nemo. I'm going Nemo playing number 5. It's got to be. What a fucking bloke. Craig.
And is this Brentford's best? You're thinking Brentford's best players?
This is an amalgamation of everything we've been judging on: status, longevity, ability, and what was the last one again? Status, longevity, ability, and moments.
Right. So my number 1, I've got Benrahma.
Yeah.
Number 2, I've got Ivan Toney.
Boo.
Number 3, I've got Pontus. If we're talking about influence and influential signings, Pontus, I could even argue Pontus as number 1. At number 4, I've got Jota.
Fair.
And at number 5, I've got Rico. Respectable
list. Callum, let's hear your abomination. Why not?
Daniel Bentley, number one.
Listen, Benrahma's getting nowhere near my top 5, so you can rule him out straight away. He's even lucky to be on the Brentford GOAT, in my opinion. Right, personally, I think Ivan Toney has got to be at the top of the list with his goal record, regardless of his off-field antics. I think what he's done for Brentford is second to none and can't be forgotten. Number 2 is Kevin O'Connor, partly and actually wholly what he's done for the club on the pitch and now off the pitch. Number 3, Pontus Jansson, fantastic captain. I think we're missing him this season with his leadership at the back. Number 4, I will go Jota. I can't believe he's not even got in your top 5, Mike. I mean, what a fantastic player he was for us at Warburton. And then again, as I said earlier, coming back and kicking on in the fashion he did after he came back from Spain. And number 5, I think I would personally go for comedy value. I'm going to go Sam Saunders because of his antics against Swindon with that free kick, and is again what he did for the club and what he did off the pitch as he is now with the B team setup. So number 5, Sam Saunders.
Okay, let's dispel any of this Benrahma bollocks. Top 3 ability-wise, and this is definitive, Callum. You are so wrong about this. And anyone who says that Said Benrahma is not the best player that we've seen play for Brentford is mental. Top 3 ability-wise is Said Benrahma, Ivan Toney, Rico Henry, I would say. Craig.
Said Benrahma, Ivan Toney, Jota.
Jota, okay, fair. Callum, I cannot believe that you don't rate. Or I'd explain your thinking behind Said Benrahma. This is just to finish the podcast because
Benrahma's attitude is something I seriously didn't like at times. Like, he would be such a frustrating when you look at his all-round individual game as a forward attacking player. Yes, you could say he was one of the better, or you could say Mikey was possibly one of the best players. But defensively, I mean, how frustrating it was to see Benrahma. I watched him the other night, and even the commentator touched upon it. And I turned to my dad straight away and said, that's exactly what he used to do for us. He never tracked back. He, as a defensive player, he wasn't bothered. And when it wasn't going his way, or he was taken off the pitch early, he'd throw his toys out the pram, and that would be that. He was such a frustrating player to watch. One week, a bit of brilliance. The next, completely and utterly irrelevant in the game. And I just think to myself, he's not all that. He's not all that, Benrahma. And the fact that we're talking apparently I don't believe a word of it. He's not going to re-sign for us. We can do better than him. So he's not going anywhere near my top 3. Personally, in my opinion, ability-wise, is number 1, Ivan Toney. Number 2, you're going to be looking at Jota. And number 3, Rico Henry. There you go.
You and David Moyes should talk football, Callum. I think you'd agree on a lot, honestly.
He's Scottish, I'm not Irish, so
complaining about bloody Said Benrahma's defensive work. He's not a bloody defender, is he? Let him play. Let the boy play.
All around game. You contribute on the pitch, regardless of whether you're in the attacking phase or the defensive phase. That makes him. I'll tell you, if he was happy to run back and track back, as he should do, instead of be a lazy sod up the pitch, I might put him as one of the best Brentford players. But he's not. As an all-round game, there are much better players who have played for Brentford Football Club than Said Benrahma. There you go.
Are you mad at Pontus Jansson for not scoring enough goals?
No, not at all.
Are you mad at David Raya for not putting enough crosses into the box?
No. Hang on. That is. Look, Pontus Jansson.
That is what.
Pontus Jansson did his job as.
So did Benrahma.
Benrahma
as a forward, Benrahma did exactly what he.
We're put in 2 different positions here. As a centre back, you don't see them spot. The argument is factual. Basically, as a winger like that, you do both a job of attacking and defending. as a centre back, you don't expect them to see them bomb up the field 24/7, do you? It's
But what you're expecting to see your most forward players bombing back all the time.
If they need to do it as a winger, personally, you do a job down that line. You help your defensive defender out. Whether that was Rico Henry or whoever else we had at left back at that time. What I'm saying, Craig, is predominantly when he would lose the ball, trying all these tricks and whatnot. He wouldn't try and run back. He wouldn't track back. That is what I used to get frustrated with mostly about Saïd Benrahma is, predominantly that. He would chicken out of a challenge as well. We could go on all day. But the only one thing I will give him praise for is when he scored that goal against Barnsley, and he had me on his Instagram feed. So, good man. I respect that.
Back to social media again.
Closing comments on Saïd Benrahma. Callum, they don't make players like Saïd Benrahma anymore. He is that special. And the fact that you're talking about his defensive duties, don't talk about defensive duties when it comes to a player like that. The things that he did on a football pitch, the audacity that man had. He's our Adel Taarabt. That's how good he is. He's our Adel Taarabt.
Very questionable.
And he should his defensive duties. He shouldn't have any defensive duties. He's that good. Just let the kid play. I think that would be a good.
Don't get a West Ham fan on here right now, and he'll tell you exactly.
No,
what
you
I
cannot.
I did have a West Ham fan on.
That.
And the West Ham fan would tell you exactly what I would say.
No.
Have just said here that he's just such a frustrating player to watch.
You cannot use.
That's why he's not kicked on. That's why he's not kicked on.
No,
you can't use West Ham and the way West Ham play under David Moyes and expect a player like Benrahma to slot into that. That's
you
why,
expect him to thrive at West Ham.
But no, you don't. You
do.
That's why players like Mikel Antonio have done well because they're a bit shit, but they run around for 90 minutes. So David Moyes likes him. They're a bit shit, but they run around a lot. No, you
Boys,
can't use
in
that.
the interest of time, we have been going on for. Yes. Go on, last remark from Callum. Closing the final remark. Go on.
Well, who's going to Wolves away? That's what I want to
know. That is a good point to round up the podcast. Let me go through the categories for anyone listening on Spotify. This is going to take a while because we've got 55 players, but in the Brentford goats, and all of this is subjective. Please don't take this too seriously. It's just a bit of fun. Saïd Benrahma, Pontus Jansson, Kev O'Connor, Rico Henry, Neil Maupay, Adam Forshaw, Henrik Dalsgaard, Matty Jensen, Jota, Pelotero, Alan McCormack, Jonathan Douglas, Alan Judge, Charlie Mack, Richard Lee, Wojciech Szczesny, Ivan Toney, Clayton Jonathan, Sam Saunders, Toombs or Dave, TC, Tony Craig, Christian Norgard, Ethan Pinnock. In Elite, we've got Andre Gray. We also have Jordan Rose, Carly Osborne, Marcelo Trotta, Emiliano Marcondes, Marcus Bean, Miles Weston, Alex Pritchard, Moses Odebajo, Romain Sawyers, Sam Wood, Glenn Paul, Leon Legg, David Rea, Ryan Woods, Ryan Dixon, Ollie Watkins, Josh Da Silva, Brian Mbumo, Vitaly Yanelt. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. We've got Harry Forrester, Marco Jurashin, Farid El Alagui, Lasse Vibe, and Jake Bidwell in shit. We've got Konstantin Kirschbaumer, Sergi Canos, Dan Bentley, Harley Dean, Philip Hoffman, and in Brentford rejects, only 3 of them out of this list, which I think there should be more in here. But we've got John Swift, James Stokowski, and Stuart Dallas. Boys, 2 hours we've been going. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure a lot of Brentford fans will be in the comments telling us if we're right or if we're wrong. I'm sure we would have pissed off a few people on the GPG. That I can say for certain. Anyway, I'm not going to Wolves away. I'm not going to Wolves away, but the Elam Road podcast will be back next week with a Forest preview. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And just before we get going, guys, remember to drop the comments below, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels. Give us a follow on our social medias as at the Elam Road on Twitter and at Elam Road Pod on Instagram. And we will see you next week. Craig, Callum, I can't say it's been a pleasure, mate. Some of the takes tonight have been fucking horrendous, but Craig.
You're welcome. Nice to be back, everyone. Nice to be back.
We'll see you next week.
Up the bees.